What's going on, gamers? We got a different topic here to cover, but it's something that I've talked about in my videos before. As you know, there's been a lot of Xbox coverage going on, but they talk the most, right? Which I think sometimes they shouldn't. If you look at Nintendo, they don't talk that much. But look at the results. If you look at PlayStation, they talk every once in a while, but look at the results. And when they do talk, it's most likely something that actually matters, or to give you some results, fiscal results, or something that just hugely impacted the company, or that some huge change is coming and they have a professional roadmap or presentation to let you know what's kind of going on here. In the Xbox world, it's Animaniacs. It's flip-flopping. It's all over the place. You know what I mean? And Microsoft needs to find some stability on the ground. And I tell you what, the route that the CEO is trying to push, because he's talking too much in all these interviews, I think, in order for that to work in the long term, you're going to have hardware that is going to still appear as a console. The idea that Sarah Bond was talking about with Phil Spencer and Satya as a premium model that's going to be expensive is not going to work for this route that she's trying to build. It's just going to be something that's going to fall right over and crash instantly. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're trying to talk about exclusives years down the line, the Helix has to at least come out in 2028, right? And at the earliest, late 2027. How are you going to have exclusives for that device if it's not affordable? You're going to be in the ROG Ally Steam Machine situation. That's why in this topic right here, this is what we're going to be talking about, Xbox hardware changes, and they're already talking about it. So become a member if you want, leave a tip down below, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. As usual, let's dive deep into this. Tom Warren says Microsoft is working on some big Xbox hardware changes and exploring radically different console business models. Let's stop right here, because this is what I was talking about before. In order for you to say that you are going to be number one over Nintendo and PlayStation by 2030, you better still be in the hardware industry, and you better have an install base, and you better have an exclusive identity. It's so funny how all this is going on. AGM was talking about this for months, and even last year, exclusive identity, and here they come. It's so interesting that everything AGM was telling you, now you see people realize things. Like I said, if you look at the stock market, number one in the world, back and forth was always Nvidia, Apple, Google, and Microsoft recently, right? We know other ones are up there as well, but all of them have their own identity. And I know Microsoft as of lately has had an identity crisis, even with Windows. That's why you see some people go to Linux. Apple has always sold a lot, but when it comes to laptops, it's a little bit different, but the Macs are kind of picking up a bit. The iPads sell really well though, but everything is actually going up. Actually, Apple's last quarter, the laptops were outselling the iPads. A lot of people were sick of Windows 11 lately. All the vulnerabilities, somebody hitting run commands before you even get on the dashboard, all the weird rootkits, the rootkits that can get onto your motherboard and hide underneath so they can't be scanned because they get into the BIOS. That should not be allowed. You know, Microsoft needs to void out all of that and now not allow anybody to do that type of stuff. And then when you think about what's going on in the Xbox world as well, the identity has completely fell off the map. That's why I say like identity, even though Microsoft's up on the stock market because they've had a strong identity with Windows historically. Xbox used to have a strong identity, but when you look at Apple's identity right now, when you look at Nvidia's identity right now, when you look at Google, YouTube, and Google Gemini's identity right now, it's incredibly strong. You're not messing with YouTube. You're not messing with iPhones in their world, and you're not messing with Nvidia. As much as I hate their anti-consumer behavior, but the point is that identity always wins. When we think about iconic sports legends, Christian Ronaldo in soccer, Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? Music industry, when you think about icons, they're representing a certain type of label and brand. Nike, certain type of label and brand. Disney, Mickey Mouse, you know what I mean? Marvel, right? Batman with Warner Brothers, when they used to rule the world. Matrix with Warner Brothers, you know what I mean? This is all brand identity. And nothing dominates the world more than identity. A strong identity that stands on its own. That's what makes it the most interesting. And for a little bit, Microsoft wanted to play this game that it's okay to lose your identity and just be everywhere because we couldn't have a strong identity and mascot anymore for the Xbox brand. Now they kind of want to turn that around. And this is why I have to cover this before we get to this hardware stuff, because in order for you to do that and beat Nintendo and PlayStation, which we know Nintendo's full identity, strongest franchise in the world, Pokemon. gaming wise, even lit up animes and trading cards. You see what I mean? Identity power, Mario, identity power to save the gaming industry. In order for you to beat them, you must have mascots and identities that are going to rival them, and you must have hardware that is going to be attractive and affordable from a console standpoint. You still want to play the console game, you got to have the console price. You got to have the loyalty. You got to have the mascot. You have to have strong publishing. You have to have amazing development. You have to have good stories, direction, narrative. Online communities that flourish, pro-consumer behavior. How are you going to step over Nintendo and Sony and be in front of them by 2030? I can't, for the love of God, believe this, guys. I'm serious. Like, I kind of think that's insane. So them thinking about hardware changes gives you the idea that we're going to have a cheaper model for the Xbox Helix. And I may actually do something. Somebody was thinking, are you going to do a series mid-gen upgrade? You should have done that. You would have had some competition with PSSR 2. You would have been competing against it. You would have had the highest settings ready saying, I know because I made this more powerful than the PS5 Pro that I'm going to be giving you 60 frames per second on GTA 6 this holiday. You see what I mean? Like all these moves that were not made, but when you think about if they would have been made, what difference would that have been? Because at this point, everything's expensive, but people will pay for GTA 6 60 frames per second premium experience if you can't get that anywhere else in the world. I'm telling you, if Sony cracks 60 frames per second with Rockstar with the PS5 Pro, PSSR 2, they're going to light up the whole media. And it's not like Sony is developing this, but guess what? They're in a position historically. If you look at historically, when it comes to GTA, Rockstar and PlayStation were always close. But they're in this position historically and for history to make something crazy happen just there. Even with the prices the way they are, it doesn't matter. Look at what people pay for iPhones. I'm just saying, when it comes to certain things, you can take advantage of that window. Everybody knows that's being taken advantage of. So I think that the Xbox Helix, in order for it to even be relevant, otherwise it's dead on arrival, it needs to have a cheaper model underneath $800 at launch and have some type of drawing power to say that I'm not just going to be another optional OEM model PC with backwards compatibility features as a console to just play older games, because that didn't do much for series. You don't see them selling millions because you can play older games. People don't want to play them. They're just going to sit there in the backlog and be ghost. But in order for me to be relevant in the future, I have to have a reason for you to want to look at me and say, I can't ignore you now. Just like when I look at PlayStation, and definitely when I look at Nintendo, I can't ignore you, because if I don't get your hardware, I can't get anything from your world, your development world. It's not going anywhere else. Only on PlayStation now, those single player games. And you just seen what you saw recently and what you couldn't get before. Imagine the next 4 to 5 years. None of them are coming. There's going to be a ton of games. Nintendo, consistently. You see what I mean? So how are you going to get the games? This is what this is about. It's really about the games that you can't get anywhere else. That's why I've always had to have multiple devices. And they'll sit here and tell me that they're ridiculous, because I know somebody that will buy a new phone every year. I'm like, dude, you would have been fine having all the consoles then. What are you complaining about? Food prices, gas prices, 1 month. You could put stuff on monthly plans at Best Buy. You can trade stuff in at GameStop. But if Microsoft goes that route and does not have a cheaper model, this is why they're talking about console business models. And you're not going to be able to get to trade in at GameStop. You're going to have to pay the full price if you're not going to Best Buy. You guys know what I'm talking about. And they're going to have limited stock. But if you want to play the exclusive game, how are you going to do that without a strong install base? The Xbox Series consoles are not going to be able to sustain anything in the future. You're constantly going to need Steam. But if you want your model to be attractive, why do you think Sony, and I tried to tell you this before, pulled all their games off of Steam so that when the PS6 comes out, Sony says, if you want to get these settings and play my games at this high settings, it's going to have to be right here. Nintendo says, if you want these settings, and they have cartoon graphics, so they're okay, but even then, you're going to have that. That's what I'm saying. But if you constantly have Steam, even then the Helix, they're going to look at it and say, but I still am going to get your games on Steam, and I already have the PC. Why do I need to go and buy the hardware? That's the game that Sony figured out. And Sony even played that game, and let me tell you how powerful PlayStation is. Even in playing that game, they still didn't kill their sales. They still sold just as much, and they made more profit than ever out of all other generations combined. And they still got this year and next year to go. You see what I'm saying? Strong identity, loyal base, and they know what they're doing. And the reason why I have to say this is because Sony didn't put them day and date on PC either. Just like they put no games day and date on PlayStation Plus or Extra. They still have a different plan. I'm telling you, all the mistakes that Microsoft made, Sony did not make those mistakes. And they knew they could do this on PC, but it only hit them with a 1.5% growth. But it didn't kill their hardware. Now with PS6, because of the way that the market's going to have to be, they have to come as hard as possible and have the strongest identity. And they're not going to be making those mistakes, like canceling all those games because they went and did a live service gas rush. Oh, that's gone now. The PS6 is not going to have any of those mistakes. And they're going to have a ton of exclusives. What do I mean by that? Well, it's going to be available, I think, a lot of those games on PS5, or you can play it on PS5 Pro. But I'm saying if you want that maximum fidelity, if you want that ray tracing 120 or the path tracing and like next-gen UI, next-gen controller, cloud computing advantages where it seems like you could download only a portion of the game that needs to be downloaded so that 1 terabyte hard drive can put like 100 games on there. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? Then the PS6 is right there. And you're going to need the cross-gen because Sony knows as well. I'm not going to try to sell the PS6 like I'm trying to sell the PS5 and the PS4 to where it's going to be able to handle all those exclusives only without PS5's install base to support my publishing. But that's only, it's still in the PlayStation console ecosystem. It's just that you got their low-end PC, which is going to be PS5, their mid-range PC kind of, PS5 Pro, and the high-end being PlayStation 6 and the handheld for it to be on the go to follow the Nintendo-like model. So therefore, Sony has a whole living ecosystem that you can play however you want to play that's going to be coming. Microsoft, I still think, is going to try that. I still think they will try official handheld. So as you can say Xbox Helix, Xbox Helix S, and the Xbox official handheld, and the Xbox PC app. But if you're going to include Steam, then you cannot play the true exclusive game. But then you're going to take a gamble. Because in order for that to happen, like you're trying to do with Sony, you're going to need to have a model that's going to probably, I mean, I'm saying it's going to have to be like $600. $650. How are you going to support it? That's why I said you're always going to need Steam, because Steam will be able to give you that power and make up for what would actually sell on your console while also giving and catering to your players to have Game Pass day one. Phil Spencer tried to do that for Xbox gamers. That's why I said that's where he was smart, because he said, okay, well then I'm going to get the sales that I need because I saw the Xbox One era. We can't sell like we used to. I saw the Series X numbers. They're not selling. So I have to go to Steam to get the money back. I have to go to PlayStation to get the money back. But I still can have you play day one on Game Pass. But day one on Game Pass kills true exclusive support. But true exclusive support wasn't working. So that's why day one Game Pass got introduced and multi-platform. See what I mean? Because he already did all of that. This is just people imagining that you're somehow going to get back in that position that Phil Spencer was in with the Xbox One, and you're at least going to do Xbox One numbers. Because true exclusives were tried in that, and that went to 58 million. A lot of people thought that was not good. It really wasn't, but you still had some type of carryover from 360 to help you out with that. But when you think what happened with the series, it went down even farther. So I'm trying to figure out how even Xbox Helix is going to even get Xbox Series X and S numbers. It was $300 for the S and $500 for the Series X. Do you think that the Helix is going to launch anywhere near that? And now more than ever, you don't have any true exclusives. Now more than ever, all you need is PlayStation Switch and PC if you want something on PC. You see what I'm saying? Like, how are you going to change gamers' minds? That's why we need to talk about console business models, because if you're going to do that, you're already letting me know I can't just do Helix at that overpriced price if I want to do this roadmap that I'm trying to do now. No matter what Microsoft tries, I kind of feel like they trap themselves big time. So he says, I break down Xbox executives' recent comments about flexible next-gen hardware, summer Game Pass change, and more. And basically what's in there is exactly what I'm going to tell you. It's like flexible next-gen hardware. Obviously, you're going to try an Xbox Helix cheaper model. But what price though? 700 and 800 is still a lot for an Xbox. With a broken identity. And semi-exclusives because you're always going to need Steam. Then they could say, well, I see that, but I already have a PC and I have a PlayStation and I have a Switch too, so I can still get your games on PS6. I'd rather get they're going to say, I'm going to choose the PlayStation over the Xbox any day. Only the diehards are going to get it day one, so it will sell out early like that. But then in the long term, I think that stuff falls off a cliff. And do you want to take that type of gamble? Well, guess what? Microsoft can't do it because they have so much money. I thought if anybody could do this, it's this company. Realistically thinking, this is the only company in the world that came in the gaming industry that failed so bad, but because you had so much corpo pool money from other parts of your company that had nothing to do with gaming, you could still stay around and play these games. But realistically, the failure is covered by corporal money pools. Sega, when Sega couldn't succeed, they had to get out because that was just Sega gaming. Xbox really failed and it really died and it's really over. But the only reason it's still around to make these type of mistakes is because it's using handicap funds to cover and make it seem like it's still here. I don't think you guys really understand. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, PlayStation couldn't have done that and been in that same position. Same thing with Nintendo. They're so good that they never felt like that. And they didn't have Microsoft money sitting in the back like that. Nintendo did, man. They would have opened up 20 more development departments in-house and they would be launching 20 first-party games a year. You see what I'm saying? Because they're that good. It's not about money. It's really how good they are. This is a game of the insides. Whereas like Xbox, they keep on making so many mistakes and it's so damaging and suicidal, but they can still stay around and then monopolize and spend $70 billion after the failure of Sega. It's like, that's insane. That's why I'm saying that realistically, it's hard for me to trust in this company because if they really knew what they were doing, they wouldn't have needed that. You would have survived by just in the Xbox gaming division by yourself, but you had to keep grabbing stuff outside of that because really you went in the sinkhole and you actually deeply failed. And then people are asking, oh, they're doing this, you're buying Activision. Actually, that's still a failure because you're going to buy something that was pre-established for 3 decades or 2 decades. Realistically, you couldn't do it from the ground up and say, all right, let's turn things around. Halo, Forza, and Gears, and whatever I had. And let's see if we can just build up. And all of a sudden, they made it up and then they turned it around. And now they're competing again because you actually grew and had the light to do that. You didn't. You just went to hit the buy button and gathered all those studios and then say, I'm this #1 publisher or #2 publisher in the world. By your own insides. Or is that just called monopoly? Whereas Nintendo, it's because they built that since the 80s. Sony, they built that since the 90s. And the money having was their choices, what they knew, but they still grew, and that sold very well on PlayStation. All the studios that they got, they grew with them. Everything with Xbox, everything tanked down. People were leaving. You had to mass monopolize to get something like Call of Duty to make your publishing seem powerful. And Bethesda. But you didn't help them. You didn't build with them. Like when they were young and children, meaning like when the company was like 1 year old, or and then you grew up with them, and you like Sony does that. They know how to they know how to do really good partnerships. Nintendo never does layoffs. They know how to do that. Nobody ever leaves Nintendo. You see what I mean? Because you know what you're doing. That's why everybody buys their games. It's not about graphics. See, when I look in the Xbox world, I always saw a power chase, a military mindset, a shooting and killing mindset. No single player really. Some great ideas though when it comes to like party chat, game chat, war, like Halo, Gears of War. You see what I mean? Like, yeah, we're good with that. Call of Duty doing well on there. But when you really look outside of that bubble and you look at after the 360 era and what happened after that, it was only everything just getting worse and falling down and dying off because they weren't able to uplift anything. So you telling me that now that you bring an AI CEO in here, it's like she's going to be better than Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer is significantly more advanced than her. There's so many things he knows about the game industry she can't comprehend. You think she's going to show up in a month or two and all of a sudden take over something he's done for like 14, 15 years in the Xbox world? Do you know how many places he's traveled to? How many Japanese developers, European developers, American developers he's built partnerships with? How many changes he's made and how many communities and development departments he's helped build? Yeah, he's made some of his mistakes, but at least he understands the gaming industry. Everything she's tried, Phil Spencer has already done it. That's why I say it's hard for me to believe that she's going to come in there and then somehow imagine that you're going to start competing with PlayStation. And now she's there and it's like, I'm beating you now, PlayStation. I'm beating you now, Nintendo. Man, I'm sorry. I can't believe that. No, and as a matter of fact, Phil Spencer has been behind her this whole time. Go back and read when he said, even though I'm retiring, I'm going to be a 6-month mentor. On top of other people talking to her as well. She's there for AI main and mostly, and to learn here. I like her. I think she's a nice person. I think she's a cool, sweet person, but I don't believe in her being a savior of Xbox. I think the Xbox hardware stuff was over, but I think the only reason Microsoft can still keep playing these games and flip-flopping is because they have a ton of money and they know they can do it. And it's really nothing to them. But hey, I mean, if you were more serious about hardware, it would be on sale, and you would have slashed the price down, because what it doesn't hurt you. But rising component costs, right? $1 trillion company. I don't know, I can understand Nintendo. I can partially understand PlayStation, but Microsoft has significantly more money than them, way more, and it has nothing to do with gaming. So that's why I say that if you really think about who's the best, Nintendo, then Sony. Sega used to be there, right? And then like after that, I can't even say Xbox, because who helps gaming the most? I mean, Capcom is just amazing lately. I love them. They're on fire. And Rockstar's about to do a huge boost to the console industry, because they know how important consoles are, and to the gaming community. Whereas like Nintendo, nobody has inspired the gaming industry more than Nintendo. Nobody has created trends and worlds and opened up and pioneered more things than they did with their mascots and the way they done things. We have handheld gaming, and that to be successful because of them. And now you're all getting all that. Jumping, wall jumping, the foundations that Zelda set as well. Exclusive power. They kept it alive the whole time while Sony was still fiddling around with it. Nintendo never changed though. I'm telling you. And they never chased power. They let you know, and they saw the most, what it's really about. PlayStation knows what it's really about as well too. And like I said, without them, third-party developers would have been in serious trouble. And third-party is so much of the gaming industry, it's not even funny. If you remove microtransactions, the game is different. But even then, Sony was the one that was there for that. So you get that balance of first-party Nintendo and Sony third-party with like hybrid first-party, and how much they've done for the gaming industry. Xbox did some great things in the 360 era. But after that, I can't see them benefiting the gaming industry. They haven't really since then. I thought Game Pass was amazing, but not killing your damn market. Sony did it right. So let me know what you guys think about this. This is just something to talk about, because if you want to play this hardware game, you have to be able to sell and move a lot of hardware. You're going to have to do better than the Xbox Series generation. I don't know. This generation could have been good, but I don't know how that's going to happen. This market is too insane. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Later.